All right, what's up, everyone? This is Nick Atkin on South China Morning Post. It's the SCMP MMA post-fight podcast. Hope you're all doing well. I'm joined, as usual, by the terrible trio, the other two of the terrible trio, JHK MMA, and we were joined by Drake Riggs, but he's just dropped out of the stream, having some Wi-Fi difficulties over in Las Vegas, because that's right, Drake is in Vegas for us this week. He's back. Yeah, you made it just in time, Drake. So yeah, I'm going to throw it to you first, Drake. How was your flight down from Washington, and how are you finding your return to Sin City?
Oh boy, well, it's been I've only been to Vegas once before this, and it wasn't for fighting. It was for actually I've been twice. You kind of forget sometimes when you're in Vegas because Vegas, right? So I've been. This is my third time here. The first two times was vacation, and I was under 21, and the second time was for a bachelor party, which was plenty of fun. Flight was fine. Just a quick little, like maybe hour and a half. Not too bad, really. Slept for about most of it because, I had to wake up early. I don't usually do that regularly. So, all smooth sailing. We're here, man. We are here.
And did you do something with your hair? Sepulot is asking you, Drake. It looks very nice.
Where you been, Sepulot?
It up, haven't you?
Yes, we got the bun going right now, and I did dye it within the last month, Sepulot. So I'm blonder than usual. So that is what you were noticing, sir. Hope it looks all right.
I've got to check as well in on my man JHK. What's going on, John? How are you?
Same old shit, different smell. You know how it is. Every day is the grind, and you keep going. And I'm excited for Drake to be down in Las Vegas for this massive event. I feel like it is one of those historic events, you know what I mean? Like 3 major fights. I'm hyped for all of them. So many storylines heading in there with Megan Anderson being such an underdog and a lot of people picking Sterling to upset Peter Yan. And then, of course, we got the champ versus champ fight for the light heavyweight title. Can't wait for that. So I'm pretty excited, man. This is one of those rare fight weeks where you're just like, it's hard to choose like what you're most excited about, right? It's just, usually there's only like one or two storylines, but this one, it's just everywhere. It's like the roads that lead into Rome, and UFC 259 is Rome.
There are so many good fights, and we will do a full preview here, maybe tomorrow. I think that's the plan. Chris Edwards-Bailey in the comments there, he will be with me. That's hopefully what we're going to do. If schedules permit, it might have to be Friday, though, but we'll see. Anyway, guys, yeah, a lot to talk about, and that's not even thinking about UFC 259. So I think what we want to start with, guys, is all of the craziness surrounding Khamzat Chimaev. So, I mean, let's just recap it briefly. Khamzat put out on his Instagram, I think, saying, I'm retiring, essentially. I'll bring up the full message in a bit, but my microphone's just gone very loud. Sorry, so I'll stand away. And then Dana White came out and said, no, he's not retired. And then Kadyrov, the Chechen leader, said, I called him and convinced him not to retire. What the hell is going on, John? Can you make some sense of this for all of us?
I don't even know what's going on. There's so many conflicting stories, right? And Khamzat, okay. I feel like Khamzat's more frustrated than anything, right? Whenever you get frustrated, you get to that point where you're just like, forget it. I'm done. I got other things I can do. And it's not like Khamzat didn't make money in the last year. That guy made tremendous amounts of money in that short period of time. So maybe he was like, maybe I got enough money. I got these other opportunities. I'm just going to shut it down because COVID is a serious problem. Who knows? But Dana White, the Chechen leader, you know what I mean? These guys are coming in and try to steer the ship the way that they want it to be steered. And maybe even Dana White called the Chechen leader and said, hey, Chechen leader, come on, man. Talk to Khamzat. That's your boy. He's talking crazy. And that's what Dana White came out and said, hey, man, Khamzat's not retired. He's coming back in June because they have this secret threesome, this 3 secret triangle that they're creating right there. I don't know. But it is something that whenever you want to make headlines, and Khamzat, he's a guy that has a lot of eyes on him, and anything he posts is going to draw some kind of attention. And that's what he did. Maybe he did it because he felt people were forgetting about him. People are not talking about him enough, and he just threw that out there. Maybe it was a publicity stunt. I don't know. You know, it was just very odd that all of a sudden he wanted to decide that he wanted to hang him up, and he didn't want to continue with this. But
Well,
I'm
I
not
found
taking
the post here. So
okay. Loosely translated, right?
this is
Right.
a screen grab, I think, from his Instagram, but via translate option, saying, "Yeah, I want to thank you all so much for supporting me in my journey in this sport. I think I'm done. Yes, I know I didn't take the belt, but it's not the most important victory in this life. It may upset you, but my heart and body tell me everything. I want to say a big thank you to my team. I want to say a big thank you to the UFC, yada yada. But then, yep, Dana denied it. And let's see what Kadyrov said. I'll try and find that. But Drake, we'll get your take on it first. What do you make of all this mess?
I think that he's just frustrated with having had to deal with, this whole coronavirus situation, as we all have had to deal with it. But of course, he's been very directly impacted, had fights fall through because of it. And he's going through it. He's going through the process of having to deal with this virus. He also posted the picture of the blood in the sink. So, he's still feeling the effects and not enjoying it, and rightfully so, wants to protect himself as well as his family. I don't think that this is the last we have seen from Khamzat, whether this was meant to be a retirement or whatnot. I think that we probably won't see him while COVID is still around, but I think he'll be back after that. The guy's still very young, assuming that this doesn't take a really long-term brutal toll on his body. It's there's still a whole lot we are learning about this whole pandemic situation and the religion and whatnot. The pressuring, though, perhaps from Kadyrov is not really cool. You don't like to see that. That's a whole another video you could really do. And then as for the Dana kind of comments, a little bit similar to Khabib, right? Like saying how this guy, obviously Dana doesn't want him to go away, and maybe he's trying to keep him around when let the guy make his own decisions right now and worry about things that are a lot more important, especially in his own personal life.
Yes, this is what Kadyrov put out on social media. According to Ariel Hawani, he said, I couldn't believe my eyes. I called and talked to Chimaev. Khamzat said recovery from illness was slow. And in an attempt to be honest and frank with fans, he decided not to discourage them. I told him the whole Chechen people were upset with this news. I reminded Chimaev that all our youth, whom he inspires, have great hopes for his victory. And what to say, millions of patients in Russia and the world. And if fans have to wait for his return, and all of us will be anxiously waiting his exit into the octagon. You could see it all there, basically. But yeah, it looks like Kadyrov just said, no, you can't retire. We need you. Is it unfair to pressure a fighter like this, John? Dana always says, if a fighter's talking about retiring, then it's probably time they retire. But that's except when it comes to fighters who can make him a lot of money, like Khabib and Khamzat, right?
Yeah, definitely. This guy, this leader of Chechnya, he is saying that Khamzat should continue for the kids, for the kids, for the people that look up to him. And then it's like, what about his health? Like that doesn't matter. That doesn't factor into this. Like him, like being on the verge of, having some serious complications from COVID, or maybe not even on the verge. He is having serious complications from COVID, and now you're just saying that he needs to just continue, and doesn't matter like what's going on in his body. Like we don't know exactly how it's affecting him. We've seen in the past that once you get COVID, it can really affect your lungs, and I've heard stuff about your lungs can deteriorate from this virus, and we don't know how it's affecting Khamzat. Maybe his health issues are deeper than we are led on to believe, and I hope it's not. But man, when you got a guy saying that he's going to retire, there must be something behind it. There must be some kind of major factors limiting him from even training. And people said that they saw him at the PI picking up his food, and But the guy, the Chechen leader, just said I had to convince him not to retire. So that must mean that he was thinking about retirement. He was thinking about hanging them up and focusing on something else. Khamzat, this thing with Dana White and him telling everybody that if you're thinking about retiring, you should retire. Everybody knows that's only for people that he feels like should retire, right? And the other people that he doesn't want to retire, he doesn't use that logic. So what can we say, man? We just want Khamzat to come back. Most people want Khamzat to come back, but more than anything, they want him to come back healthy or just be healthy so he can live his life. You know what I mean? Not come back too early, and then that affects him long term, even longer, 10, 15 years down the line. That's the worst case scenario, man. I hope it doesn't happen that way. But whenever a fighter retires, I don't believe any word of that. I don't react to it. You don't even see anything. I didn't tweet it, retweet it, none of that, because I don't believe it most of the time, especially a guy in that situation. We still have to figure it out. We should have to wait. It's a waiting game for Khamzat, and that's all we need to do is wait for him.
Well, let me just read some of these comments. There's a few people in the chat, so we'll get to these quickly. Tan Nguyen saying the fighters shouldn't train while recovering from COVID. I think the MMA gyms should enforce that rule. Sepulot saying it's like the piece dropping out of school tweets, except much more serious because it's due to COVID. And who else have we got? This is JD Smith, the artist. I hope I pronounced that right. How does Khamzat's retirement talk factor into your faith in him going into his next fight? Do you confidently back him with 1 foot in, 1 foot out type talk? Yeah, maybe Drake. What do you think? Is this? I mean, whatever happens with Khamzat, if he does fight again, he's maybe gonna have less of the hype around him. As in, he might seem beatable now. He looked unstoppable in those first 3 fights, but any potential opponent is maybe going to now look at him like, this guy has half a mind on not fighting anymore. You know, maybe I can beat him now.
I don't know about that. I think, it kind of depends on if this was something that happened in cage and we had seen it where he physically couldn't do it. Of course, we know that right now he's not capable of fighting, but when you see something that really puts it, a lot more emphasis on the fact that, oh, this guy really is beatable. But until then, of course, he's going to lose some of that aura because he will have not fought for a good while. And people, short-term memories forget about what he is capable, what we have seen from him. But as for this side of things, maybe, but I don't know. I think that he should probably still be pretty confident when, I believe he will come back at some point. And definitely it might be something that gets talked about, which will be weird to point out. And if you piece, the guy was suffering from a serious illness, that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I don't think that this should affect that too much in terms of, how beatable he is or is not, because as far as we know, he could still be unbeaten.
Drake's cutting out a little bit, so I'll just finish off with more comments here. We'll get to these. Galactus says he will be back, and Galactus also says that Riggs is just Sean O'Malley with a fake mustache. Yeah, I agree.
Real mustache, actually.
Sepulot,
unbelievable.
Isn't this dude the same dictator that purged gay people in Chechnya? Yes, Kadyrov does not like gay people at all. That's another debate for the whole Kadyrov thing with UFC. He's just scared of losing, says Jose Gonzalez. Mystic Gam pointing out apparently he was coughing up blood. Yes. James Kendrick saying, why can't Dana just honor that he wants to retire? Yeah, we touched on that already, I think, a little bit with John. Luke Lopez thinks maybe there's some weird, real reason for his retirement. John, you think there's anything else he's not telling us? Anything he's hiding from us?
Yes, there's always something that they're not telling us. There's always something that they're hiding. There's always something you're hiding. Drake's hiding. I'm
I'm
hiding.
hiding nothing, John.
We're all hiding everything all the time. Like this is not even us. This is like this is a character we play on TV. That's not even real, right? But anyways, yeah, there's got to be some things where there's got to be some things that we don't know about, right? Because of course, just like in anybody's life, their daily life, you don't know everything that's going on, and it's not like he's gonna come out on Instagram and tell you step by step what has happened since he got COVID. So what can you do, man? It's just you got to sit back and kind of limit the criticism against Khamzat. You know what I mean? Like all that, like he's scared and no, man. I think Khamzat is not even close to being scared. Saying a fighter is scared is beyond. I can't even understand that. These guys go into battle hand-to-hand combat, dude. Like that, no one is scared, right? They're all gonna fight somebody. And especially if they're gonna get paid a lot of money. But anyways, yeah, we just gotta sit back and relax and see how it plays out. You know what I mean? Don't jump on anyone really, especially Khamzat, for contemplating retirement because of health issues. We gotta wait, man. We can't just shit on somebody for that. You know what I mean? There's a lot of hype behind Khamzat, and if he waits, of course, some of that's gonna, fade away. But when he returns, people are gonna be anticipating his return even more. Because he went through all of this, because he had the retirement talk, and a lot of, a lot of narratives, right, for him entering the fight. So I feel like if he does return, he shouldn't fight someone in the top 5 or 10. I hope that they reconsider that and put him against somebody in the 10 to 15 range where he is ranked. Yeah. So, maybe they'll do that. Who knows? Maybe it all work out for everybody.
Well, Mystic Gam in the comments as well here saying thoughts on Holland's comments on Khamzat. I haven't actually seen this yet, but I've just brought it up so we can throw it in here. Don't know what he said. I'm just reacting to this now. Kevin Holland praises Khamzat Chimaev for being very smart about fights. Well, not really. That's the headline. It seems like he's paid him some kind of backhanded compliments here. He's bouncing back and forth to the fights that make the most sense. This is on Joe Rogan's podcast. So he'll go to 170 for a fight that makes sense. He'll come back to 185 for a fight that makes sense. Nothing wrong with it. Good management for fighters who fight like that. Very smart fighters. I tip my hat. That's great. That's not me. I'd never be that. So props to those guys. That it's like you go to a 70 because this fight makes sense for you. Smart move. Okay, yada yada. What's he saying there, John? Can you decipher that for us? He's basically praising him, but also kind of a backhanded diss, isn't it?
Yeah, saying that he's taking he's probably saying that he's taking the fights that are more advantageous for him and that will elevate him throughout his career. But the thing is, that's what you need to do. That's what you need to do to raise your stock in the UFC, is to win and win convincingly. Sometimes it doesn't even matter against who. It could be against the lower tier of the division. As long as you go in there and crush it, pick up bonuses, and then that will push you faster through the ranks. And that's what Khamzat did. And you can't hate him for it. But yes, he is kind of giving a backhanded compliment, because what he's saying is like he hasn't fought anybody good. He hasn't fought anybody tough. He hasn't fought anybody legit. But that all comes eventually, right? They can't just keep feeding him guys that he can manhandle. They got to feed him some guys that are going to be competitive. And that's what they were going to do in his next fight. But it just didn't work out. So Holland and his comments, he's in one thing about Holland, he's in a position to say that, though. He's in the position because he's gone out there and fought all the tough fights. He went 5-0 in 2020. He's heading into this huge fight against Derek Brunson. So I respect his opinion, Holland's opinion, and he's right in some ways. But then at the same time, if you're a fighter, that's what you want. You want your managers to help you, build you, and the UFC to push you. And that's what's happening with Khamzat. So you can't hate on him about that.
All right. Remember, everyone, to drop a like and a subscribe on the video if you haven't already. And also go check out getfanatics.app. And the link is in the description down there. I'll bring up a banner as well to remind you. If you haven't already, you can get it from the App Store as well. join our SCMP MMA group in there. Make your picks for UFC 259. We will be doing our preview hopefully tomorrow or Friday. We'll let you know ahead of time. A few more comments here about the Khamzat situation. Galactus back here saying it does seem a bit sudden. To quote our favorite promoter, we'll see what happens. Yeah, Tristan here. Oh, that's a question. We'll get to that in a minute. I agree with him fighting someone from 11 to 15 in the rankings, says Luke. But the board man upstairs probably won't want that. Yeah, I agree. I think that maybe Khamzat, the Leon fight anyway, I wasn't ever truly too keen on that. I thought it was too high a jump. So hopefully now reality sets in. Drake, do you think that maybe when he does come back, they will take less risk and put him against someone in that 10 to 15 bracket in the division?
Man, I hope so, but it's really hard to imagine it still because of, I think there's a better chance now, first of all, for that to happen. But, having already shot the guy right at the top to where he's fighting, he was set to fight the number 3 guy, and with a win there should, get a title shot probably, which is still crazy to think about. But the fact that you put him in that spot in the first place, and then for him to not lose the fight yet, but literally lose the possibility of having it and not giving him that opportunity still, I can't imagine he'd be happy with it, but maybe he'd be more willing to take a step down after going through all of this and kind of, get more comfortable with facing somebody down in that area that he should have been fighting in the first place. So I think that, there's a better chance of it happening from this point on now, but they really put him in a weird spot by, throwing him right at the top as quickly as they did.
Okay, well, there's a question here. Let's throw it to John. It's a 2-part question. What do you think of Adesanya saying he could weigh in around 195 for the official weigh-in? And if so, do you see any chance Blachowicz taking advantage and forcing the wrestler? I don't think Izzy is going to be 195. He walks around about 205, I think. So, yeah, John, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to weigh in any lower than 205. I feel like he's going to hit the mark, maybe around 203. Let's make our predictions right now. I say he hits around 204, 203. I feel like that's where he's going to weigh in. He's going to look the same. He's not going to look flabby. He's not going to look too skinny. He's just going to look the same as he always does. And I think weight is not going to be a huge issue for Adesanya. Adesanya trains with heavyweights all the time. He has fought at heavyweight. He has fought at light heavyweight. So the weight is not going to be something that will be a big factor in this fight. And Jan Blachowicz, is he going to take advantage and force the wrestling? I feel like wrestling will be part of the game plan, but a lot of it will be mostly fought in the clinch. I feel like the clinch will be a big factor. And if he does take Adesanya down, it's just like, can he keep him down? Because I heard Adesanya is very good in wrestling. Like, he's a good wrestler. He's been wrestling for years and years. He just doesn't use it. So hopefully we'll get to see him use it. That's what I want to see. And he says he wants to bust out the jiu-jitsu skills. I like to see some of the jiu-jitsu skills against Blachowicz. If he can submit Blachowicz, that would be an outcome that most people would never expect. If Adesanya was off his back and threw up the triangle and locked it up. He was down at San Diego training with Andre Galvao, who just recently got slapped the shit out of him by Gordon Ryan. But I don't think that matters. I don't think that matters at all. I hope we see a fight where they're everywhere. They're like all around. Like, he takes him down, he gets back up, there's submission attempts, and then they're battling on the feet. Like I said in the Fightful media picks or whatever, I'm the only one taking Jan Blachowicz in that fight. Everybody else is taking Israel Adesanya, and the reason why I'm taking Jan Blachowicz is because of that knockout power. I feel like if they do start swinging wildly, and that's the thing, Jan is the one that mostly swings wildly in more than Israel Adesanya does. But I feel like if he clips him, because if you watch the Dominic Reyes fight, it was a short left hook that dropped Dominic Reyes. A short left in close range. It wasn't even like he loaded up on it. So imagine if he loaded up on something and hit Israel with it. Kevin Gastelum, he rocked Israel. I could see Jan doing the same thing, and that's why I'm picking Jan to win the fight. And he's just much bigger. Anyways, going back to you, Drake, in the closet.
I'm actually right outside the closet now because I realized there's a little bit. The closet's farther from the Wi-Fi, so that was why I had some issues here. So yeah, we're addressing Tristan's question, right? So Adesanya is saying he could weigh in around 195 for the official weigh-ins. It's possible, the guy doesn't seem like a guy who is much of a liar, seems to be a straight shooter, but I don't know. I think 200, 202, some people were saying that seems pretty reasonable, or maybe he'll surprise us and he'll be right at 205. Who knows? And then as for Blachowicz, man, I really do like his chances as well, John. Everything you were saying there, that Polish power is legit, like in his hands, but his feet as well. Like you got to remember, in that Reyes fight, the damage he was doing from those body kicks was absolutely ridiculous. Like it took only about 2 until there were serious welts on Reyes's body. Like you could see toe prints from the kicks that Blachowicz was landing in. Those ended up being a problem, of course, and you don't really see that kind of thing too often. But he was landing them very nicely and giving him fits. And then, of course, we know what he can do with his hands, as we've seen against most people. But I don't know. Izzy's just very slick of a striker, and he just needs to. He's going to be faster, so I think it'll come down to Blachowicz will need to, cut things off and get him to the ground would be a good idea. Try and take things there, but. I don't know if that'll be his main plan of attack. In his interview with you, he was saying how he's calling for the head kick. Maybe he's going to go out guns ablaze and get a little crazy and try and overwhelm Adesanya. And maybe he's willing to gamble on his chin, which, maybe not a bad move. A guy who's coming up, going to have less power than him. Blachowicz, man, he's only been stopped by strikes once. He has 2 TKO losses, but one was a doctor stoppage. His only real stoppage loss was to Thiago Santos, who that guy hits very, very hard. So no shame in that. It's going to be very interesting, man. I'm curious to see how it plays out, but I think too many people are sleeping on Blachowicz as well, despite me picking against him also.
Yeah, it's just when you look at Adesanya, right? He's like precision, technique, footwork. He's the perfect archetype for a fighter, a striker, right? Like if you wanted to build somebody up, a lot of people are talking about Demetrius Johnson has the perfect example of a mixed martial artist, but man, I look at Israel Adesanya as that too. Like he's up there. He's become that status of like if you look at him, it's like, man, this dude is almost perfect in striking, and he kind of steers everybody away from their game plan. And I understand that, and I understand that the chances of Israel Adesanya winning this fight is higher, especially if he goes the Yoel Romero path where they kind of just stand there. But I feel like Jan is not going to stand there. He's going to press forward like he did to Reyes. He's not afraid to get punched in the mouth. And that makes a huge difference. But the thing that scares me the most is there is a power difference, but Israel Adesanya, his placement, his precision is the most scary thing about him, I think, because he don't even have to have much power. He just needs to place it perfectly and you will go down. And he's shown that many times. But I'm betting on Jan Blachowicz, and a lot of the people that I know, they're gonna hate that because I know a lot of people right in this region of the world, and they're gonna hate me saying that. But I'm taking my chances on Jan Blachowicz, man. I think that guy's gonna be able to clip him, and we're gonna be able to see if Adesanya can recover from that type of power, right? But what's mostly anticipated is what is Jon Jones going to tweet after Israel wins or loses. That's the biggest thing that everybody, every website is waiting for it, right? Every website is like has articles ready, like locked and loaded, right? They just put the tweet in there. So that's another level of excitement too, right there. It's fun.
A few other comments here on the whole situation. I'll just read them out now. JD Smith, just a little bit about Khamzat here. He said, I never understood Khamzat's push. It's kind of a gamble on a new prospect. If he fights a Leon Edwards this early and loses, the hype is slowed down. If he's that good, let him win his way through a few more 15 to 11 ranked guys. Sepulot saying here that JHK, you're a believer in the legendary Polish power. I know that for a fact.
That noose, the hangman's noose.
Yeah. But as Makoto here says, as Izzy says, everyone has power. I have precision. I just get the hair out of my mouth there. Luke Lopez is going for Yan as well. He says, I would love to see Yan get the bones fight instead of Izzy. Izzy can rule the middleweights. Yes. What do we think, guys? Is Adesanya maybe biting off more than he can chew? Should he stay in that middleweight division and just completely rule it and wipe it out until there are no more contenders?
Well, the thing is, like, if Adesanya wins the 205 belt, I don't think he's gonna fight at 205 again. This is just my inkling. Like, I feel like, because he said in the interview today that after this fight, he's gonna go back down to middleweight and defend the title, right? I feel like that is gonna be the path for him. He's gonna win this fight, but he's not gonna defend it. He's gonna go back to middleweight, defend that title, and then wait for the Jones fight. I think that's what's gonna happen. I feel like we're gonna end up having some kind of weird, like clog at the top of the 205 division. We already have one, but it's going to become a little bit weirder with Adesanya as a champ if he does get the title. And it's going to kind of mess up a lot of people's path. It's going to screw Glover Teixeira the most out of anybody. I feel like Glover, if he's pulling for anybody to win, it's Jan Blachowicz. Jan, if he wins that fight, I think Jan will turn it right back around and defend it again against Glover. He said it to me. I talked to him. He told me, like, Glover is the number one contender. There's nobody else. But the Israel fight is the Israel fight, man. Like, you got to take these fights. And Jan's thinking about his future. He just had his kid born in December. His attitude is a little bit different. His mentality is a little bit different. So I'm excited to see what happens. But, yeah, for Israel, yeah, I don't think he's going to, especially if he wins, even if he loses, I think like this is the only fight we're going to see him at 205.
Okay. What? Yeah. So I saw Izzy actually said he wants to fight Jones in December at the earliest because he wants a crowd there, right? Drake, do we agree that fight is too big for an empty arena? Jon Jones versus Israel Adesanya?
Yeah, I mean, that fight would be absolutely huge. The rivalry has already been building before Adesanya even had this fight made official, So that would be one that you would think the UFC would really not want to do that without a crowd just because of, the gate and the additional tickets and all the stuff that it brings along, which I guess in Fight Island, it would have, some fans now, but it wouldn't be the same as a big sold out show like we're used to seeing. So yeah, I think that would definitely hurt the fight a bit. And John, I want to ask you, man, like, you don't think the fight would happen at 205 if Izzy wins? You think it'd be heavyweight?
Yeah, I think it'll be at heavyweight. I feel like if you've seen Jon Jones recently, if you've seen how big he looks, I don't think he's gonna go back down to 205 after gaining all that weight. Losing weight sucks. Losing weight, gaining weight is fun. Like, I've gained a lot of weight over the past year. It's fun, man. It's delicious. It's phenomenal, right? But then now I'm thinking like, okay, it's March. I got to get myself back in line, and I got to start exercising and watching what I eat. And it sucks. Jon Jones knows that too. And I think that if he has any power in decision making where this fight happens, it's going to happen at heavyweight. Back to you, Drake.
Oh, no. Okay. Fair enough, man. Fair enough. Yeah. I guess that would make it definitely a whole lot more interesting. The fact that the double champ at middleweight and light heavyweight is then going up to face arguably the greatest fighter ever, the best light heavyweight ever, but it's at heavyweight. Like, how ridiculous is that whole storyboard and narrative, right? So that would probably be best case scenario for it to happen there. And, John definitely does seem not interested in going back down to light heavyweight. Maybe his tune will change if Blachowicz looks incredibly impressive and pulls off the upset. But and I only say that just because he seemed interested after Jan got the win in the rematch against Corey Anderson. Remember, Bones Jones was there in the audience and seemed like it, but then he, ditched on that idea. So maybe not. I think you're probably more realistic with the assessment here, John.
Okay, we've got a couple more comments. I'll just run through one from Tristan saying another interesting wrinkle will be if Adesanya wins, the next 205 contender is Glover Teixeira, who is extremely wrestle heavy. Wonder if Adesanya even defends the belt if he wins on Saturday. There is also a question from Tan that we'll get to in a minute. But I guess while we're talking about Jon Jones, guys, we should segue into that other topic we had planned to talk about, which is little bit of DC and Jon Jones beef. It never goes away, does it? I'll bring it up on screen, but I believe it started with DC on the show he does with Ariel, DC and Helwani. And he said something along the lines, guys, didn't he, that Jon Jones doesn't have power to knock people out at heavyweight. And then obviously, Jon Jones bit back and showed him a video of him knocking Daniel Cormier out. But DC bit back again. It's always back and forth with these two, isn't it? I love it. He says there's a difference, punch versus kick. You're still as dumb as you've always been. You'll never surprise me. Dance for me. I can always make you move. And lastly, this fight didn't count if you forgot there was an issue. Remember? Who's right, who's wrong? Do you think, why don't we start with the initial issue? Does Jon Jones have the power? Is he going to be able to knock people out at heavyweight?
We don't know. We don't know yet, but we know that he doesn't really have the power in his hands to knock people out at light heavyweight. But he does have a powerful chin, and DC tasted that, so he understands it. And I think the articles that came out were taken out of context, right? Because he was talking just about punching power, I believe. And if you look at history, if he goes up to heavyweight, we don't know if he's going to hit harder. But most likely, if you're a gambling man, you're going to say no, he's not going to have as much power as all the other heavyweights. When you look at Derek Lewis, and you look at like Jairzinho, Rosenstrike, and Francis Ngannou, and even Stipe, and even DC at heavyweight, those guys had legit power, right, at heavyweight. So if we look at history, DC wasn't a guy that was knocking out everybody at light heavyweight either, and he went up there and knocked out the champ at heavyweight. So it could be a possibility, man. But the thing is, the biggest question out of this is, and I think a lot of people are not focusing on it, is should a UFC commentator that is retired from fighting be going back and forth with a current UFC fighter on social media? You know what I mean? Like, should that be happening? Like, I don't know. To me, it's like there should be a line drawn, right, with this. Like, you got to be somewhat of a professional in that aspect, because you're going to end up most likely calling the fights, man. And you can't – can you be riding on one side or the other when you're commentating? Is that something that you should be doing? Is that, ethical?
Well, DC told us, didn't he, John, that he's not even allowed to make picks anymore because he's a commentator. He can't even pick the fights. So
exactly.
Imagine this would fall into that category.
Yeah, I understand him breaking down the fights and giving his assessment, but then going back and forth and Tan, he mentions Stephen A. Smith, but we don't want to talk about him. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want do we want a Stephen A. Smith in MMA? Do we lack for that? Do we yearn for that? Do we salivate for that? No, I don't think so. So, DC, he's a great guy, a legend, but man, I feel like it's wrong for him to go back and forth with Jon Jones. He should just give in his assessment and then let Jon Jones say whatever Jon Jones says, and then just left it at that. But man, it's just, I don't know, man. I still want the trilogy too at the same time. So it's like, man, I wish they would just fight each other at heavyweight. And I feel like that's still on the table. I think that if the Israel fight doesn't work out, this is still part of the build-up to the trilogy at heavyweight with DC and Jon Jones. But now I'm going off the reservation. Back to you, Nick. I don't want to. Sometimes I do that.
Okay. We had a question from Tan. I'll just quickly ask you guys. Why are there so many missed weight problems this year compared to last year? Drake, take it away.
Has there been? I haven't noticed a significant difference. I mean, I'd have to see like the exact numbers for what like last year was looking like. Unless I've just been missing them. I know there have been some weight misses and issues going on, but I feel like it hasn't been super drastic. Am I missing them all, you guys? I don't know. I know it's early still, and maybe it's worse than the start of last year, but we're only 2 months in, just starting the third month, so I haven't noticed this. I haven't really noticed it.
I haven't noticed it either. Tan must be on some like investigative journalism stuff right now, because I haven't noticed really too many weight misses. I've noticed the normal amount, right? You get a couple sometimes, you get a 1 or 2. Sometimes a fight goes off and everybody's on weight, but nothing too significant. It's not like half the card was missing weight or anything like that. And then you gotta remember, a lot of these guys are under unique circumstances when they head into like fight week, and that could play a factor. This world is, like everybody is saying, this world is crazy, and you got restrictions everywhere and stuff going on. And then there's a lot of late notice replacements too, and maybe they could be missing weight. I have no idea. I don't really look into it too much, like the missing weight stuff, but maybe we're missing something. Tan is trying to tell us about. Maybe we're missing it.
All right,
tell us more, Tan.
Tell us more, Tan. Yeah. Some comments here back on Jon Jones. Roberto Lopez saying Pico Power. There we go. Yeah, we could talk about Jon Jones all day. It's always fun. But another fun one I wanted to talk about, guys, is drunk Paulo Costa. This was a great fun story, I thought. So I'll try and bring up the original thing. He basically, the gist of it is he went on his own YouTube channel and basically blamed his loss to Israel Adesanya on the fact he claims he had a bottle of wine before the fight. When he was trying to get to sleep, he couldn't sleep, so he thought, I'll drink a bottle of wine, I'll fall asleep. And then he felt hungover in the cage on Fight Island. As excuses go, guys, where does that one rank in the pantheon of all-time MMA excuses?
First of all, if you doubt Paulo Costa's like popularity, go to his YouTube page. That guy is massive, man. Like, his YouTube page gets crazy numbers of views for his like documentary stuff. So check him out, man. Check out his YouTube page. But yeah, the wine thing, it's kind of weird, and a lot of fighters have said that about Fight Island. You have to fight like basically in the morning or in the middle of the night, and it's hard to kind of get your body used to that time. And Paulo, he decided he's gonna drink one glass of wine, and then he ended up downing the whole bottle. Is it an excuse? I don't know if it's an excuse, but I think that it's more of him trying to be transparent of like what exactly happened leading up to the fight. Him saying that he was hungover, then that kind of leads into the excuse part, right? But if you would have just kept it at, I had trouble sleeping, I drank some wine, and maybe it had an effect on my performance. But there's some other, excuses that he's brought up too before this, right? And you remember that video that he put up where he was drinking like this big jug of like unspecified liquids, and he had like lemons and oranges inside of it or something like that? Maybe that's the wine that he was talking about. I don't know, but yeah, it is a crazy excuse, and it just gives more fuel to the fire for Israel Adesanya. Like, why would you give fuel to somebody that has so much fuel already? But that's what Paulo Costa is doing. So we'll see what happens, man. It is a weird thing to bring up, though.
I'll go to Drake in a sec, but I'm just going to read out these comments from him. He says, I was kind of drunk when I thought maybe a hangover. I couldn't sleep because of the leg cramps. Keep in mind the fight happens at 9 a.m. local time. We have to wake up at 5 to get ready, stretch, wrap the hands. UFC told us to wake up at 5 in the morning to go to the arena. Hadn't slept till 2:30 a.m. It was my mistake, and I don't blame anyone else. It was something I chose. But in order to try to sleep, because I had to sleep since I was awake for 24 hours, I had wine, too much wine, a bottle of wine to try to black out. I had a glass and it didn't work. 2 glasses, it didn't work. Half a bottle, didn't work. I had it all. Israel Adesanya has already responded, as you would expect. He was going to be asked about this, but yeah, Drake, you can weigh in quickly. Well, I'm going to find Izzy's comments, but what do you make of all this?
You know why this is absolute excuses? It's because of the fact that, when did this fight happen, you guys? This fight happened like in the summertime. It has been like half a year since this happened, right? So I mean, the guy is going into this much detail and saying all this about it, far removed when Adesanya is about to have another fight in a couple days. Like, you didn't even have to mention this stuff, man. It's complete excuses. And he would have lost regardless. I think it was just a bad stylistic matchup, but the fact that he's talking about this in so much depth, so much longer later, is complete excuses. It was a bad loss for him, and I think he's struggling to accept that still.
Well, here's Izzy's words. I think he spoke to MMA Junkie, and he said Paulo Costa is making excuses because his ego can't handle the fact the skinny clown whipped his ass badly, then double tapped him twice. John, you don't go at Izzy, do you? I thought Paulo would have learned his lesson. You don't go at the skinny clown, especially during lockdown.
Exactly, man. It's just, that this is gonna play a big factor heading into his fight against Robert Whittaker. I think is he mentally over his first loss? Is he mentally over, just getting pretty much dominated, or not pretty much, completely dominated and then knocked out? Is he over that? Can he get over that hump? I mean, we've seen many fighters that get their, suffer their first loss and then not come back or are not the same in their returning fight. We saw Francis do that. Remember when Francis lost to Stipe and he came back? He was very gun shy, right? And it led to him losing to Derek Lewis, I believe, in his return fight. Drake, you're better than me remembering this.
Yeah, you're correct.
Yeah.
Well, it was not a great fight.
Yeah, it was not a great fight. So if Paulo Costa goes in there and the biggest example is Ronda Rousey, right? Her just disintegrating in front of us right after the Holly Holmes loss. But yeah, if Paulo Costa goes in there with that mentality and he can't get over that hump, Robert Whittaker is just gonna run through Paulo Costa like it's a paper wall, like in an old Asian home. Like you watch those movies when the Asian homes, every wall's made of paper. That's what Paulo Costa is going to be, that paper wall, and Robert Whittaker is going to run through it. And hopefully it's not that way, because we want to see a great fight between those two. But man, it's looking like he's not recovering, properly from that loss. So hopefully he does by the time he steps into the cage against Whittaker.
Okay, there's some comments and questions here I have to go through quickly. Sepulon says, why does he think that's a good excuse? It just makes him look like an absolute idiot, LMAO. It's drunken kung fu, says Tan. How dumb is Paulo, says Sammy. Yes, and hopefully we won't get another Deontay Wilder situation, says Lance Cerrone. I think we've already got one. Yeah, I think Paulo is he's going down the Deontay Wilder route. James points out, says he was drunk, but 2 days after Paulo lost, he tells Izzy to sign the contract for the rematch. Paulo won't be back, says Jimmy.
No, he was drunk when he said that, probably.
Fighters look to improve after they lose, not make silly excuses. Yes.
Well, the thing is, fans are going to always say, like, don't make excuses, but I like when fighters come out and are transparent of what happened and what they thought about what transpired in the fight, what was leading up to the fight, and I think it's great that Paulo is telling us like what exactly was going on. But it's borderline excuses, or borderline just being transparent with what happened, and I could respect that. I could respect fighters for doing that, because a lot of fighters don't do that, man. A lot of fighters will tell you what you want to hear, and sometimes you don't want to hear that. You want to hear the true, raw, uncut. So, man, I hope Paulo is over the loss, man. That's just what I hope, because Robert Whittaker is not a guy that you want to have an off day against.
Absolutely not. Anyway, we have a couple more topics, I think, to get to. No, we've finished our topics. So
we did? Okay, before we get to the next thing, I wanted to say something about Paulo. At least Paulo, one thing, the difference about Paulo Costa and Deontay Wilder, and it's a very clear difference, is Paulo Costa is not blaming his team. He's not blaming his team at all. Deontay Wilder is blaming his coaches. He's gotten rid of his coaches, right? So that's the biggest difference, right? Paulo is putting it all on himself. He's not blaming and pointing fingers at his team, and you got to remember that Deontay Wilder is a different situation. But yeah, that's what I want to say.
Rain Lamina here saying Paulo won't improve. That was an incredible opportunity that he let go. Indeed. Well, yeah, we did have just those topics there lined up, as you can see in the scrolling banner. So any other ones you want to talk about, guys? And I guess we can do a little bit more on 259. There's also the PFL have released a schedule. What are the hot topics, Drake? What can you think of? Or just ask your questions in the comments chat, guys. We'll get to those. Yeah, get your questions in, as JHK has just said. How about this, Drake? We are going to do a preview tomorrow, I think, myself and Chris. But yeah, you're going to be there for the media day. You have gone big on your selections, on your picks. You're going for the upsets, aren't you? You're picking against Nunes. You're picking against Yan. You're going for the blue corner, triple sweep. And then you've also told everyone you're going to get a tattoo of a goat if you are wrong. Well, I'm going to hold you to that, Drake.
Please do. I'm going to come out unscathed, uninked, you guys. It is that time. All of the champions fall eventually, unless you're George St. Pierre. And I believe it is time for Amanda Nunes, the new mother. Too many distractions. It's Megan's time. She's gone through all of this to get to this moment. It's happening. And then, Nick, that's actually the only upset out of the championship fights. If you look at the odds, Sterling and Izzy are the favorites in that one. So I'm really only going super bold on the co-main event, but I am doing, what would it be, triple on triple or nothing? Because I'm doing...
Is Sterling the favorite in that?
Yeah, I think slightly,
Wow.
Looking at it before there, but
well, you better get the goat right here, like Conor McGregor on his chest and neck. Put the goat right there.
No need.
Put the goat right there, man. With Amanda Nunes' face.
Yeah,
I guarantee you get an interview then.
I think against Nunes is a waste, says Roberto. MD's got the house on Piotr Jan and Adesanya.
Really?
Is Drake insane, guys, for picking against Nunes? Roberto says he's proud of Megan for taking this fight. It doesn't sound like too many people, Drake, though, are agreeing with you from the general reaction.
Who needs them?
All right,
Who needs them?
With Megan, right? One thing we know about Megan, okay, that she has made a lot of mistakes coming up in that 45 division, right? She's won fights, she's lost fights. We've seen her in some weird situations in that cage, but her last fight, she kind of put everything together, right? And got the knockout. And I feel like she has that puncher's chance. She has the length and the reach to give Nunes some problems. And if Nunes can't get inside of those punches, and Megan is able to use that jab and stay far away, and in a way kind of tire her out on the feet, you know what I mean, and not get taken down, because you never know. One thing about Nunes, she might take this fight to the ground just because, and we could see her just wrestling with Nunes, because Nunes can do that. That's one thing that makes Nunes so complete, is that she can wrestle, she's great jiu-jitsu, she got knockout power, but the featherweight knockout power that she carries, man, is just incredible, Nunes. But at the same time, people say Megan Anderson hits like a man, and we might be able to see that. We might get that in this fight. And if they stand and trade, and Megan has that chance, man. And I think that's what Drake is looking at. He's looking at Megan is stepping into this fight at the best point of her career. I feel like if she's going to win this fight, she's putting it all together now, and it's now or never. If she doesn't get it done now, it's never going to happen. It's not. And it's probably going to be very difficult to get a rematch against Nunes. And, you got Kayla Harrison in her final PFL season over there. And after that, I'm thinking she's gonna come over to the UFC, and Nunes is gonna go back down to 135, and you got Kayla Harrison at 145, and then she's gonna be smashing people there. Megan's got to do it now. It's now or never. The pressure is on her more than anybody to get it done. It's going to be an incredible fight. I'm not picking Megan Anderson. I feel like Amanda Nunes is going to go in there and be able to get inside fast, and it only takes a couple shots, and it's going to be done. But Megan always has that chance, like Drake said. I'm very interested. You know, a lot of people are writing off Megan, and man, you can't. She's at the highest level for a reason, and her physical attributes just make her a weird stylistic matchup for Amanda Nunes, and your interest level should be high, man. I don't think you should be taking a bathroom break for this fight.
As Lance Rody says, every dog has their day in the comments. Yes. A lot of people.
Come on, guys. See, you're hearing what I'm saying.
Yeah, he agrees with you. Roberto asking though, has Megan's grappling got better? Drake, we'll throw that one to you.
Yeah, no, I think it definitely has. I mean, myself, I have watched her entire career from the beginning to now. If you watch the gradual improvements that she has made, and most significantly in her UFC run in these last two fights, and yeah, of course, they haven't been against super duper high level opponents, but you see some of the techniques she's pulling off, like the way she set up that triangle on Zara Farron, for example, which is probably the best example of her grappling that we have seen in these last two fights. And of course, there were some brief moments in the Norma Dumont fight, her last time out. It has definitely improved. It has definitely improved since, we saw that it wasn't that great in certain matchups and what have you. But the thing is, admittedly, it doesn't matter how much it has improved, because it's not going to be as good as Nunes's, because as we often forget, and as John alluded to, Nunes is such a devastating striker and such just a phenomenal fighter overall. But we think of her as this monster on the feet who knocks you out. I mean, Dana just posted that clip today of her knocking out Cyborg on repeat for like 30 seconds. Did you guys see that? First of all, it makes you forget that Nunes is a BJJ black belt, and we shouldn't forget, because in her last two fights, she utilized the grappling a decent amount, especially against Jermaine Durandamy, who was getting the better of her on the feet. So it was very wise of her to utilize that game plan. And then against Felicia Spencer, she did, go to the ground every so often when she wasn't beating her up on the feet there. So even though I am vouching for Megan here, and I think that, she's going to pull it off, it will be on the feet. And as I said, Nunes is just the superior grappler, no matter how many improvements Megan has made, despite the improvements she has made.
Yes. Jovok in the comments saying Megan's takedown defense is bad. Nunes will take her down. Roberta saying Megan cracks under that pressure. This one's for you, Drake, though. Jimmy is asking, where can we watch Drake during the media interviews during UFC 259? Yes, you and I were both coming up with the plan a little bit earlier this morning. I don't think we've fully settled on what we can do, but rough idea is you're going to live stream them all, aren't you?
Yep, we're going to live stream them all here on the channel for you guys. And I guess, Nick, we could do it to all the Twitch and the Facebook too, right? So, I mean, still kind of figuring this out on the fly, you guys. But we will have the media day interviews tomorrow. Probably just going to live stream. The whole thing is one big video, and then maybe, cut out separate people afterwards. But either way, you'll be able to see them here on YouTube and, potentially the other platforms, as I said. But if you want to know when they start, I got you covered. You can follow me there at DrakeRiggs_ on Twitter, and just stay subscribed to the channels and, keep an eye on it. They will be there. I think that we will be beginning at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Pacific time. So we will have to see. I'll have to check the schedule again, but yeah, just stay subscribed and follow everything, you guys. It'll be here.
The press conference is on Thursday, right? That's going to be pretty good.
Yes. We'll have
I
that
wonder
as
if
well.
they're going to have a surprise. I wonder if they're going to have a surprise there. There's got to be some surprise that Dana White has, right? Like he's going to announce something like Ronda Rousey's coming back or something. They're finally putting together Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano. They're going to finally put that fight together. Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano, main event for that card in April, ahead of what is it, the 2 title fights. We'll see what happens.
Okay. Well, I think the plan as well, we might get Drake to comment in between the interviews and interact with you guys on the channel a little bit, so you ask questions, and maybe I'll try and jump in as well and interact. But it's going to be the Big Rig show over in Vegas at the Apex. Big Rig coming to you live from the cupboard in Amy Kaplan's house. Yes. How's your stay there? How's Amy treating you, Drake?
So far, so good. She hasn't been too mean to me, so we're okay. It's all good over here.
I can vouch. Amy is. She completely mothered all of us when she was in Tokyo with us for one championship. Essentially, she looked after all of us youngins and made sure we were all well fed, and it was a long day. She's great, and thank you, Amy, for looking up.
Indeed, appreciate it.
Some more comments on Nunes here. Lanceroni says Nunes is a natural power puncher, fights with a killer mentality, has been in super fights and doesn't seem to be affected by the atmosphere. Fighting without fans is a big factor, I think. And more comments here. MD saying Petr Yan versus Sterling, a pick'em.
Oh my!
I got $4,000. Is that US, not Hong Kong dollars? Because I would 4,000 Hong Kong dollars would be much for me. On Petr Yan and Adesanya. All you casuals gonna see Petr Yan murder Aljo.
Damn.
Strong, not mincing your words, MD. Adam is saying Israel versus imagine a gruesome decision ending with a draw. Okay, and Lanceroni has a strange feeling Izzy is going to have a lot of problems with Yan, especially after saying he's coming in possibly 10 pounds under. That could be an advantage or a serious disadvantage. Yeah, this is very interesting, isn't it? 3 title fights. But guys, there's a lot of other good fights on that card. John, which are you looking forward to most outside of those top 3 fights?
Man, I gotta look at this card to just even remember what's on it. Let's see. Outside of the three title fights, man, it's just insane, the lineup, right? Just Makhachev versus Dober, that's a legit fight. Santos versus Rakic, insane. Cruz versus Kenny, phenomenal. Phillips versus Song, devastating. Benavidez versus Askarov, insane. Kai Kara France versus Bontarine. I don't know what you can say about that. I don't know. There's so many fights, man. And I know you guys are gonna do a preview, so I don't want to get into it. But what am I looking forward to the most in that lineup outside of the 3 title fights? I think I'm looking forward to Thiago Santos versus Alexander Rakic. That is either that's going to be a sleeper, like we were very disappointed, or it's just going to be this insane, violent smorgasbord of fists, knees, and elbows, and someone's going to go to sleep. And I'm thinking the latter.
Okay. Drake, we know you love the Dominator. Yeah, I mean, what else are you looking forward
to? I almost wore my shirt today, but I wore my chain instead. I really did. Besides the Dominator, of course, my man. I don't want to do the same pick as John. I really don't, but that is such a good one. Such a fascinating one to see if Santos can get back on track after 2 losses in a row now, and that, rough one against Glover, which just Glover being his old savvy self, pulling that one off. Makhachev and Dober is very fascinating as well, which of course is right before the first title fight. Dober has improved so much since kind of starting off as not a journeyman in the UFC, but you couldn't really tell how far he was going to go. And he's looked sensational lately. And, now taking on a guy in Islam who is being touted as the future of the division, especially by, still the current champ, Khabib, is saying that, of course, because they train together and what have you. But Islam hasn't fought since, it's been a while. I don't think he fought at all last year, right? It was like September 2019. So just to see if he can come back against a guy who's got all that momentum and is rolling right now, I think that's going to be a very fun one, from both sides to see how both guys look. But And then Benavidez, Askarov, an important one at flyweight. If Askarov wins, then he's got to wait a while now, because if he wins, he's next in line for the title, for sure. But they just booked the rematch for June. So he's going to have to fight again, probably, poor guy, if he pulls this off. And then Benavidez, of course, he's probably not getting one at this point in his career again. So there is a lot. There's a lot of good stuff. Love Song Yadong always. Cannot wait for that. So yeah, you can't go wrong with any of these, really. Come on.
You cannot. I'm so excited for this card. There are so many good fights. I cannot wait to watch it.
Also, if you're watching, I will be doing a live hangout with James Litch. So if you guys are going to watch the show, you want to join me and James on his channel, over there on his channel, James's channel, join us. We usually do all the pay-per-views. So if you like to listen,
but don't miss the post-fight interviews. I'll have the post-fight interviews for you.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to get the post-fights. Don't miss all of it.
Post-fight on post-fight. That's it. Some breaking news here that I don't even think John knows this, or they may have asked him, but Fanatics are gonna finally put some prizes together for the winner of each month, and some of it they're gonna buy some of John's merch from him, and that'll be some of the prizes.
Nice.
No way. Are you serious?
SCMP MMA shirt as well. Yeah.
Damn.
So they'll get in touch with you, John, and
phenomenal.
Get some JHK goodies, guys.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we're into March, it's the third month. Maybe we should reward the previous two winners with some backdated prizes. It might be unfair.
Yes. Well, Nick's got a bunch of shirts out there.
Yeah, like
maybe you could throw those shirts in when you send out the other stuff. I don't know.
I think I could throw those in there.
Yeah.
But that's cool. I have some questions here. Rain saying, is it going to be a selling point that Weili is from China during UFC 261? People seem to view her as the enemy for some reason. Yeah, it's tough, isn't it, at the moment? We talked about this a lot in depth, didn't we? Some of the horrible racism that Asians are facing during the coronavirus pandemic, John. But I don't see that really being a factor or anything like that, do you?
I hope the UFC uses this platform, especially with Weili fighting at the end of April, to kind of shine light to all the attacks against Asian Americans. And there's been some serious, just ridiculous people out there attacking the elderly on the street for no apparent reason. Maybe it's because of the COVID and the restrictions and everything, and they're blaming it's not just Chinese, I mean, it's they're blaming all Asian people. So if you look like me, or anything like me, then you become an enemy to a lot of these people in their eyes. And I hope the UFC could use that and use Weili to kind of to shine light on that and tell people, man, you gotta unite and fight this together. You can't just be blaming people that have nothing to do with it. Most of the people you're attacking probably was born in the U.S., grew up in the U.S. They're probably Americans. They just don't look like you. You know what I mean? So, man, I just hope that they use that. And with Rain, he's talking about, is it a selling point that she's from China? I don't know if it's a selling point, but, man, I don't think the UFC really cares about selling Weili to the rest of the world. I think a lot of it's just focused on China, right? I feel like if they could just grow the market in China with Weili and make her a bigger and bigger star, it just impacts the UFC much, much more than them being more popular, let's say, in some obscure countries in the middle of nowhere. So we'll see what happens, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. I don't think so.
Well, I think also it's important to remember that the UFC has just signed this huge deal with Migu, the subsidiary of China Mobile, for reportedly $100 million or something like that. Exclusive partnership deal. And perfect timing, isn't it? Because people are all going to tune in for this Zhang Weili fight. This is the first show, I think this weekend is the first one on the new deal. So it won't be long before Zhang Weili is back. And they're definitely strengthening their grip, aren't they, Drake, on the China market? UFC, it's hard to see room for any other promoters, I think, really getting a foothold in there now.
Yeah,
it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, man. It is a wise choice. Why not capitalize when you have you have your champion now. So this was a very good move. And just to kind of circle back a little bit to Rain's question or his comment there about people seeming to view her as the enemy for some reason. You mentioned this on my other show, WMA Today. Shameless plug there, Rain. Appreciate you dropping in. I had to get him out of the way, man. I had to get him. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen much of that in terms of like these fighters being made out to be enemies, but I did see something today, and I don't know if you, John, or Nick, you guys saw this, but Brendan Schaub had some comments that were, a little upsetting to hear, as they can be from him. But he said, he was talking about this fight, Rose versus Whaley, and he was asked, who is he rooting for? And he's like, Rose, man. He's like, of course, all day. And then Chin, his producer, editor guy, whatever, he was like, really? And I was like, it's a tough one to pick. He's like, what? Do you like communism or something? Like, he made out Whaley to be the representation for communism. It's pretty ridiculous. You could find it, Nick, if you wanted to. It's like a 15-second clip, Twitter. Borchini Depot, of course, that guy's good. Shout out to him. He's a great follow. That was very interesting to see. So that one up. It's not very long.
That sounds
let me rewind back to what I said about Stephen A. Smith. We already have a Stephen A. Smith. His name is Brendan Schaub.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so we don't even have to even talk about Brendan Schaub because he's Stephen A. Smith, right? He just says things because he thinks it's funny at the moment, and then he hides behind the whole I'm a comedian thing, and because if he was a really legit like an analyst or whatever, he probably wouldn't say that, right? But he's trying to be funny, and Brendan Schaub, I the only parts of his podcast I've ever listened to is clips on Twitter, because I can't listen to him for too long, right? At the beginning of Fighter and the Kid, when they were like just busting each other's balls, it was funny. It was like legit funny. It was comedy, and you had a comedian with you, and Brian Callen, right? And Brian Callen's, he's really funny too. But man, these guys, man, he is Stephen A. Smith of the world. So let's. You guys want to play that clip? Because I haven't seen the clip yet, so I don't know exactly.
Okay, let's go for it now.
Let me give you my real-time reaction to that.
Here we go.
They're both awesome. Okay, but
are you a communist?
No, I'm not a communist.
Yeah, I'll start that again.
This is a great fucking fight.
Yeah.
Go Rose.
I have no idea who to root for though, because I like
Rose.
both of them. They're both awesome. Okay, but
are you a communist?
No, I'm not a communist.
You go for Rose.
I'm gonna say whoever's the best fighter that night.
Yep, Rose for the win.
All right. And I'm
How
saying,
dare you?
Number one, Brendan Schaub, he has ties to Denver, and I think he does have ties to Rose, and that's why he's preferring Rose to win the fight. Number one. Number two, he's talking to Chin. Chin is Korean, he's Asian, and I think that he feels like he has like a pass to say whatever he wants to say because he's talking to Chin, and he's trying to be funny. And it is a comedy podcast and whatever, but man, I think he was just trying to be funny, to be honest with you. I don't think he meant anything by the communist thing because, of course, that's an idiot just thinks of communism when they think of China, right? And that's it. But and when you compare U.S. to China, U.S. is supposed to be the land of the free, and China is supposed to be the communist state. So I guess that's what he's trying to say. I don't know, but I could only listen to so much, and a lot of times when we see these clips, we don't see the whole clip, so like we only kind of see like what he said at that 5 second, 20 seconds or whatever. But Brendan Schaub does this all the time, so it's nothing surprising, right? It's not like he's this respected like analyst, journalist, or whatever. So he's a comedian / hype man / wannabe Stephen A. Smith / Joe Rogan's nut hugger / Brian Callen's little friend / whatever. You know what I mean? Like he's rode the waves really well, right? That's all I gotta say. He's rode the waves really well. And Christopher Edwards Bailey says, "Who does JHK prefer, Brendan Schaub or Brian Campbell?" One thing they have in common is they both work for Showtime. And I'm just telling you, that's all I'm gonna say. They both work for Showtime. So I guess Showtime, they love these types of guys, right? So
Do better, Showtime.
Yeah. It says Schaub's stand-up specials are a cautionary tale on the effect of CTE.
yes,
Yeah.
and
And
Schaub has
UFC
something
will-
against Asians because he did have that joke about the UFC doctor, and he was doing some fake
Right.
Chinese fake Asian accent, which is so stupid. But he's hiding behind the guise of he's a comedian, right? So he could pretty much maybe one day I'm gonna do that too. I'm gonna turn into a comedian, but I'm not actually a comedian, and I'm not funny. But I'm just gonna say things and say, "Oh, I'm a comedian now." And I did open mics a couple times, right? Whatever. Brendan Schaub, and the people that follow him and believe everything that he says, and it's almost like, to me, I put him in the same category as the mythical character of Colby Covington. The people that stand behind Colby Covington are the same people that are standing behind Brendan Schaub, I think. For some reason, I feel like they're in the same club, right? They're hanging out at the same bars. So it is what it is. Let them live their life and make their money. No hate.
Here's a question sort of related to this. Jimmy asking, what do you guys think of people saying Whaley is on PEDs?
What?
Kinda
Everybody's on
ridiculous,
PEDs.
considering she gets tested by USADA.
Everybody's on PEDs. Everybody says everybody's on PEDs. I don't understand why this is like a big deal nowadays. Like, people saying Valentina's on PEDs. They're saying Nunes is on PEDs. Megan Anderson is on PEDs because she's 6 foot tall, right? Everybody's on PEDs nowadays. That's what everybody wants to point to. And let's just get over it. Don't accuse people of PEDs until they get caught, or unless you really know what's going on, right? It's simple. Right? Don't obsess over PEDs. It's always going to be part of every sport. Go to football, PEDs. Go to basketball, PEDs, right? There's PEDs everywhere. So people saying that Whaley's on PEDs, it's just, I don't know. They don't know what to point at to kind of criticize her. So they point at something that's so ridiculous. And that's how I feel. USADA, they're doing a terrible job. I'm just going to say it.
Tristan, another question also related. Is if Whaley wins and Valentina wins, would you rather see Whaley versus Valentina or Amanda versus Valentina? 3 next. Drake, why don't you take that one?
Nunes versus Valentina 3. I think that Whaley, man, there's just so much work that she still needs to do at strawweight. That division is so good and so full of talent that you gotta defend. You gotta give these girls their opportunities, and she doesn't need to be thrown right into a super fight. As fun as it would be to see champ versus champ, it can wait. It can wait. She has so many great challengers at 115 pounds still, that as opposed to what's happening at bantamweight, and flyweight is filling out more and getting some more exciting people climbing the ranks and what have you. But it makes way more sense to do the trilogy fight as opposed to taking Whaley out of a division that has been essentially stagnant at the top now since her last fight a year ago almost. So I would be a little upset if that was to happen next. I would prefer the trilogy fight.
Okay. Anyone else got questions? Please do get them in. We probably go about another 10 minutes or so.
Damn, does my opinions don't count, Nick?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
Damn,
on,
Nick, you just run over me like a bush
I'm sorry.
on the middle of the road.
How
He's
rude
just
of
on
me.
4x and he's just like, who was that? That was JHK. It's all good. I'm just fucking. I'm just messing with you.
It's
No,
bad day
I
for
thought
me.
that was a good question. You know what I mean? That's gonna be a narrative coming out of that show, right? A big narrative. That if both of them win, what's next? And Drake, he nails it. You know what I mean? Dana White, he's pushing for this super fight between these two girls, but I feel like they have Valentina not so much, but I feel like Whaley has, the division is so long and there's people lined up to fight her to where she needs to win about, let's say, 3 or 4 more fights as the champion, and then they could start putting something together, right? Yeah, I like the Amanda Nunes versus Valentina, the third fight. I want to see that. That's one of the fights that I want to see happen, like more than any other fight. And I want to see it happen this year. I would like to see it happen at the end of this year. I feel like at the end of this year, if they keep continuing winning, put that fight together, Valentina moves back up to 135, and we got a legit super fight. And I don't know, man. I like Valentina's chances. I feel like Valentina has improved more than Nunes in the time. I feel this way. This is just me looking at it from as a spectator. I feel like Valentina has come into her own more than Amanda. Amanda has been doing it for so long, and it's almost like, when are we gonna see her kind of taper off? When are we gonna see her kind of drop a little bit in her stock? And I feel like we kind of saw that in the GDR fight, right? Where she didn't stand and trade with GDR. She kind of went to the ground, and she had some little weird moments, right? Where she got up kicked in the face, and she looked like she was in some trouble too. So I want to see that. That's the fight that I want to see. Nick, do you want to see Valentina versus Nunes, the third one, or do you want to see Valentina versus Zhang Weili at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Shanghai with a full crowd? What do you want to see?
I want to see that, John.
He wants to be there.
I don't know. I don't think I'll ever go back to mainland China. Just as a British journalist, it's probably not the best thing to do. So maybe we could send you, John, or send someone else who's brave enough to go. You went to Shenzhen, didn't you? My company wouldn't let me go to Shenzhen for the UFC.
No,
when
we were supposed to meet there, and all of a sudden, like a day before, you're like, "Oh no, it's getting too hot." They're moving these trucks. These military trucks are moving around, and it did kind of get weird in Shenzhen. I don't know if people even realized it, but there was like security everywhere, and it was getting tight, man. People like you said, like foreign like journalists that didn't look Asian. Like they were kind of being shut out, right? Because the threat or something weird, right? And I was just like, that's kind of messed up for everybody. But hey, that was like one advantage of being Asian for one day, right? Like when I was there, I was like, oh, they just get through. Like, hey, who are you? Oh, you look the part. Let's go, get in there, do your thing, right? That doesn't work out that day, but yeah, I'll go to China any day. I don't mind going to China. China is like, every time I go to China, it always gets better. Like the technology is getting better over there. The infrastructure is getting better over there, and I just want to see Shanghai. I want to see Beijing. The last time I went to Beijing was over 10 years ago. I want to see what it looks like. So if you guys want to send me, especially with Contender Series Asia most likely going to start up, I'll fly over there. It's like a couple hours, and you're there. Boom. How long did it take the flight from Portland to Vegas?
Yeah, it's like 140-ish. Not too bad.
Man, that's nothing, dude. Like you get comfortable, and the next you know you're landing.
Exactly.
Which kind of sucks, but anyways, yeah, like I don't know. Let's move on to the next topic. I don't even know what we were talking about.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think Weili in China. So someone did ask a question.
Yes.
I think here, Rain saying, what do you guys think of MMA Junking telling Weili's manager to do the same thing Figueiredo did and stay in America to wait for a fight if she wins? So sort of a quick notice, turnaround. I guess it speaks what we were just talking about. If Weili wins this one, I think now, especially with the Migu deal, should they wait and do her next defense after this one? It's got to be in China, hasn't it, John and Drake? I don't know which one of you wants to take it first, but is it wasting her doing it in Vegas, or are there benefits to it because you're exposing her to a different audience? I don't know. Where do you weigh in on this one?
I'm going to give a quick response. I'm going to take Drake over. I'm saying that the reason why they're not doing Weili in China right now is because it's just not possible to bring in people. And if you wait until they open it back up, you'll be most likely waiting a long time, and you never know what's going to happen in a foreign country where you have no power at all, right? So I think it's a good idea to have Weili stay in the States. And a lot of the Chinese fighters have been going over to Team Alpha Male and training and taking these short notice fights. Not really short notice, it's just they're making quick turnarounds and doing camps over there in the States. So hopefully, I think that will be a good idea. What do you think, Drake?
It would be a good idea from a fighting perspective, right? But business-wise and for the wallet, it's not not very practical, I don't think. I mean, you got to think for Jan Jones, for example, who did, she was in Sacramento with Team Alpha Male, as you were mentioning, for her last camp. She wasn't supposed to be there for as long as she was. Ended up being like 2 months because that fight got pushed back, of course. But that takes a toll on the wallet because they have to pay for all their expenses themselves. Maybe it would be different. Weili's the champ, get some special treatment. UFC could hook her up a little bit. That would be great. They definitely should do that. But in the case of like somebody like Zhao Nan, that really, kind of hurt, the wallet, and she probably broke even on that whole time. And if not, spent more money than she made for, getting that win against Claudia Gadelha in total. So it's very difficult for these international fighters to, well, first of all, make the travel sometime, especially during, these times in general, because of how much more expensive it is. And then on top of that, if they stay for long periods of time, that hurts a whole lot more. So in that sense, it's that's why they don't want to do it, essentially, right?
Yes, I agree. Some comments here. Give Weili a break, says Jimmy. She traveled to 3 countries before she went to Vegas in UFC 248. Plus, she stayed for an extra month after her win. But I guess she's had a break, hasn't she, guys?
Yeah, she's had a long break. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's a year. It's half a year away from home. Yeah, and it was a pretty traumatic experience, I think, for her, though, wasn't it? Not easy. Right at the beginning of the pandemic, she was stuck there in her hotel room, I think, for a month after that biggest win of her career. Another question, though, unless you guys want to weigh in.
When I spoke with the Leech, right, and I asked him about travel from China to the U.S., and he said there was no problems. Like, he got through right away. There was no hiccups. There was no obstacles. So getting over to the States shouldn't be a problem. Maybe going back to China, because you do have to have that quarantine. And that's what's weird. Like, in the U.S., when you fly in, there's no quarantine at all. Because that's what it seems like now.
I think it's like 4 days, maybe. Okay. It's like maybe a week max, but it's nothing compared to what everybody else has to go through. And that might be changing soon because, the new president and everything. But still not very long, I don't think.
Man, I can't believe
Actually, I think it is a week. It's one of my buddies right now. He just went to Mexico like yesterday, Cancun, for spring break vacation, which is what it is. But he said he's gonna
cruise.
Yeah, he's gonna. Yeah. He said he's gonna have to do a week quarantine when he comes back. So I guess they did move it a little bit longer.
All right, well that's good.
One for you, John, quickly before we get out of here. From Tristan. A bit earlier, I forgot to press this one. Have you been asked to submit any Bellator rankings as of yet? I've just submitted, by the way, my latest One Championship rankings. I can't say I wrote too much.
You're staying on board?
I'm staying.
He got convinced.
I'm gonna stick it out. I'm gonna now because John's on Bellator. I'm a little jealous, so I need to stay on one. And now Drake, maybe you can get on the UFC panel when you're down there.
Did you get a visit from the enforcer? And they were like, "You better get your ass back on the rankings, buddy."
They told me you bombed, and then I don't know. I just kind of felt it was a bit of fun, so I think I put Fabricio Andrade up in the bantamweight. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's open, so I could put in the rankings at any moment, so I'm probably gonna put them in pretty soon. They give us a good enough time, and they have a great system, man. Makes it very easy for everybody to submit their rankings. I can't wait until the first rankings come out so everybody can shit on them. That's what usually people do. So they're trying to do their best, man, to bring something more transparent. So and you got a person right here that's in it to win it. So no, there's nothing to win, but I'm in it. I'm involved, and we'll see what happens with it. But yeah, it is open to submit the rankings, and they should be out before the events start in April, I believe, when Bellator restarts their year. I'm excited for that too. I'm excited for Bellator to come back with some of the fights, man. It's insane. Like the rankings is gonna get messed up after that month of April, man. There's gonna be so much moving around, but yeah. we'll see what happens.
Well, I think that's about all we got time for, guys, isn't it? We're coming up on that hour and a half, and Drake's. I feel bad keeping Drake here. It's a big day for him. He's got the media day tomorrow. What time is it there? Sorry, I don't even know. Is it the morning? About night
It
time?
is 8:25 p.m. right now. So no, this is the best. This is the freest day until Friday, probably.
Well,
Or,
I want you to be fresh for the media day tomorrow. So I don't want to keep you too late here. But yeah, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but just tell everyone what you're going to be doing this week, where they can find you, and all that jazz.
Yeah, you guys. So down on the scene in Vegas for UFC 259, of course, we'll be providing you with all the fight week festivities going on here on the YouTube channel, and maybe writing some articles as well on the website for you, summarizing some of the events that took place. But all of the activities going on, the media day, the press conference, the weigh-ins, the post-fight interviews, the post-fight press conference, all that stuff will be brought to you here on the channel via my lens, and of course providing commentary between lapses and what have you. You can always interact in the chat. I will do my best to answer whenever there are breaks in action, and I will also provide updates for things that maybe are happening not on camera, just in the time I'm here on Twitter, which is @DrakeRiggs_, as you see there, providing updates on everything. But you can find it attached to me or SCMP MMA, of course, you guys.
What can go wrong? Absolutely nothing.
Nothing. We're going to be live for almost everything.
Yeah. Okay. Well, JHK, what about you? What have you got coming up this week? Where can people find it?
Well, I got a bunch of interviews coming up, like always. Not gonna reveal any of them because you never know. And I do got a big interview though. I do have one that I really enjoyed talking to this woman, this champion. It's coming, man. She's so fun, man. That's the first time I ever spoke with her. Very, very just laughing. I just love when fighters are enjoying their laughter, right? And she enjoys laughing, and yeah, look for that to come out in the next couple of days.
I need to watch that. For you.
Yeah, and then
yesterday was a bit crazy for me, as you know, John. So
no doubt, man. I ain't worried about it, man. You're always good for everything that you do, and I'll be on what is it, UFC 259 hangout during the show on the pay-per-view card. Me and James Lynch. Before you guys go head over to SCMP MMA to get the after. Post-fight press conference, interview stuff. Join me and James while we do our little thing, and hopefully James will drink again and let it fly.
Yes.
All right, well, they're giving me the go-home cue, so let's get out of here. Thanks, everyone, for commenting and asking questions. We really appreciate all of you. If you haven't yet, like and subscribe, and download the Fanatics Fantasy MMA app. The link is in the description. Come make your picks for UFC 259 as well, and see if you can beat us. It's not hard to beat me at the moment. I finished third from bottom, I think, in the entire group last month. So, but Drake's a little bit better than me. We'll get all of Drake's picks, maybe. We'll see if he's got time to do the preview show. Otherwise, it'll be me and Chris doing the preview. Tomorrow is the plan. We will schedule it and let you all know when it's coming. And yeah, I'll see you all there. Hopefully you can join us again. Thank you again. We'll see you next time.